When a woman hears her own mother planning to erase her, she doesn't scream. She doesn't cry. She smiles and begins to build something far more dangerous than a house. She builds revenge. In the dry season, when the wind carried whispers across the cracked earth and the baobab trees dropped their last leaves, something in the heart of Adama cracked too. This was not a tale from some faraway place. No, this happened in the heat-struck hills of Makunda, a quiet town nestled deep in the eastern valleys of Cameroon, where red clay roads twist like old stories and family names still carry the weight of a generation. In Makunda, people say, "Your blood is your root," but sometimes the roots rot. Adama's family was known across the town. The Okafers, once respected, once solid. A family of professionals and planners. There was the father, Papa Chidi once, a sharp-eyed professor of economics now retired, spending his days adjusting his wristwatch and giving unsolicited advice on financial scaling. Then there was her mother, Mama Nkiru, beautiful in her youth, clever with her tongue, always smelling of hibiscus oil and manipulation. Her sister, Ziora, the youngest, bold, sharp-tongued, city-polished. She married a loud man named Tabena, a fast-talking lawyer from Lagos who always wore sunglasses even at night. And then there was Adama, the eldest, the quiet one, the one with dirt under her nails and sawdust in her hair. People in Makunda called her the carpenter's daughter, not knowing she had become the carpenter herself. After studying basic architecture in Douala, she returned to Makunda and built her own construction company from nothing but borrowed tools and stubbornness. Her skin was the color of freshly fired clay, her arms strong from lifting timber, her eyes the kind that measured you before speaking. She didn't wear heels, she wore boots. She didn't gossip, she built. But her family never saw her, not really, not beyond what she could give. And oh, how much she had given. She paid for family trips to Limbe, to Kribi, even to Nigeria when Mama wanted to visit a prophet. She renovated their entire home, pulled up the cracked tile in the kitchen, reinforced the crumbling beams, installed solar panels so Mama could have constant light for her prayers. She carved shelves, laid polished mahogany floors, and painted the walls in soft gold. All for them. She called them her people. Until the night she heard the truth. It began 3 days before the Yam Harvest Festival. She was in the garden, standing on a wooden ladder, wrapping strings of tiny calabash lanterns onto the jacaranda tree near the kitchen window. The warm wind brushed her cheek, scented with dry earth and palm oil. She hummed to herself, fixing the lights. Then, voices. Clear, too clear. "I don't want to sit at the same table as that woman again," said Ziora's voice, sharp-like. A blade. Adama froze. Her hand still gripped the wire coil. One lantern swayed, bumping her elbow. "Ziora?" she whispered. But no one saw her. "She still hasn't paid Mama back for the upgrades," Ziora said. "Once she does, we push her out." "She embarrasses me," she added, voice tight with disgust. "She acts like fixing houses makes her special." Then came Mama Nkiru's voice, smooth and cold like river stones. "It's already in motion. Everything will go to you, my daughter. All the land. The inheritance, not her." Adama didn't move. She stood there like a statue carved from betrayal. Her hands trembling on the ladder, lights hanging like vines around her arms. Behind her, the house shimmered in the fading daylight, a home she had shaped with her own hands. Each window was her work. Each corner held her sweat. And now, her own blood was laughing about cutting her out. She heard them chuckle laughing about how she still played dress-up with drills. How she was alone, like a forgotten widow. How no one would marry a woman who smelled like varnish. She stepped down the ladder slowly. The ground felt uneven, like the earth had tilted. Later that night, Mama hid her phone when Adama walked by. Ziora gave her sly, pitiful glances, as if they were already mourning her usefulness. After 34 years, Adama knew the language of looks. She had spoken in sacrifices her whole life, and now no one was listening. The next morning, she woke early, not from joy, but habit. She pounded yam. She marinated the goat meat in ginger and pepper. She cleaned every window, strung kente fabric over the chairs, folded napkins into shapes like birds. Hope whispered in her chest, "Maybe this year, they'll see you." By sunset, that whisper was dead. Mama Nkiru had turned venomous. She pointed at dust that wasn't there, criticized the way Adama folded blankets. "You don't know how to wipe a table properly," she snapped. Adama didn't answer. She just smiled and polished the spoon again. The guests arrived one by one. Papa Chidi with his pressed shirt and permanent frown. He nodded at the new floors and muttered, "Well done," as if he were grading a test. Ziora and Tabena walked in like royalty. Tabena made a show of sniffing the air. "Smells like someone's been overspending," he joked. At dinner, Adama poured palm wine, plated the egusi soup. She sat beside Mama like nothing had changed. Inside, something had. She watched Mama smile sweetly at Papa. She watched Tabena show off his watch. She listened as they all laughed at a joke about city contractors. And when Mama leaned in and said, "You're a good daughter," it felt like poison sliding down her throat. That night, when everyone retired, Adama waited. The house creaked in the silence. Frogs croaked in the yard. She slipped into Mama's room. The laptop was new, so was the password. But Mama was predictable. The third try worked, and there it was. A folder labeled Final Plan. Emails between Mama and Tabena. Talks of phase-out stages, inheritance transitions, and property control. A list of renovation values, calculations, $20,000 gone. Transferred slowly from their joint vacation account, Adama's contributions to a private one under Mama's name. Then there was a contact, K. She clicked, Koba. The messages were too familiar. Too soft. Too wrong. Not a cousin. Not a friend. A secret partner. Adama read every word. Her stomach turned. Her sweat went cold. While she carved benches, Mama was carving out her life. With another man, with Adama's money. The next morning, Adama called in sick. She wore a plain dress, tied her hair, and walked to the lawyer's hut near the river. The old man read the documents. His lips tightened. "You did the work, but the land belongs to them. Legally, they can remove you." Her voice came out. "Small, so they get everything?" He suggested peace, talk, mediation. But Adama was already somewhere else. Not in fury. Not in grief. In planning. In stillness. Like a mason staring at a cracked wall. And deciding, "I will rebuild it differently." The morning sun had barely rolled over the hills of Makunda when Adama stood barefoot in her family's kitchen, flipping pancakes with a silence as heavy as thunderclouds. The pan sizzled gently, the batter bubbling into golden circles as the scent of melted butter wrapped around the room like a gentle lie. Outside, the baobab stood still, as if it too were holding its breath. From the hallway, soft slippers shuffled across polished wooden floors. Mama Niru appeared, dressed in her usual blue robe, the sash loose around her waist. She held a mug of steaming tea with both hands, the steam rising into her still-curled hair. She didn't speak. She didn't even glance at the food. She just hummed. A lullaby from Adama's childhood, soft and slow. The same song she used to hum while holding baby Ziora in her lap. But this morning, it wasn't a lullaby, it was camouflage. Adama's eyes didn't leave the pan. But inside her chest, her heart thudded like a festival drum. She knew now, the truth, the betrayal. She had read every word of Mama's secret messages, had stared at spreadsheets tallying the theft of her labor, her money, had heard her own mother promise her exile in exchange for a man named Koba, yet here she was humming like nothing had happened. Adama placed a stack of pancakes onto a warm plate, drizzled honey on top, and set it on the table with quiet grace. She offered no greeting. Mama offered none either. Two women stood in that kitchen that morning. One who had mastered the art of hiding secrets, and one who had just learned how to weaponize them. That afternoon, while the house echoed with soft radio music and the scent of roasted groundnuts, Adama began to move. She wasn't packing a bag. She was planting evidence. In the living room bookshelf, behind a row of dusty travel guides, she placed a tiny audio recorder. In the kitchen light fixture, barely visible to the naked eye, she nestled another. Just outside Mama's study, tucked into the corner above the woven mat, went the third. Then, when the house grew quiet and Mama stepped out for her usual gossip walk with Auntie Issei, Adama did the unthinkable. She slid a chair to the corner of Mama's bedroom, stood up quietly, and reached toward the vent near the ceiling. With careful fingers, she slipped a button-sized camera inside, angled just so. It watched the room like a third eye. She stood there for a moment, her chest tight, her own mother, her own house. And yet, this felt like enemy territory. Was this the price of protecting oneself? Was justice always so ugly? She stepped down, wiped her fingerprints from the chair, and left the room without a sound. That night, she baked cookies like she always did. The good ones with molasses and orange peel. She offered them to the neighbors with a radiant smile. She even helped Auntie Issei fix a broken fence post before sunset. Her hands worked with the same precision they always had. But her mind was listening to every word, tracking every movement, every gesture from Mama, from Ziora, from Tabena. The air around her felt tight, like something waiting to snap. Later, they all gathered for dinner. The table was full. Stewed chicken, jollof rice, fried plantains, kelawel. Everything sparkled in the candlelight. Family laughter echoed against the walls she had rebuilt herself. Adama sat quietly at the end of the table, her plate barely touched. She kept her head low, but her eyes sharp. Mama Nkiru, dressed in a pale wrapper with golden beads, was strangely silent. She passed bowls and stirred sauces but kept her phone close, lighting up every few minutes under the table. She'd glance down, type quickly with one hand, then smile at Papa Chidi with the other. Adama noticed it all, every glance, every flick of her thumb. Then, with a soft voice and a bright smile, Adama passed the potatoes and asked, "Mama, who is Koba?" The table froze. Even the goat meat on Ziora's fork seemed suspended in midair. Mama blinked, her hand paused mid-scroll. A flash of something crossed her face, fear, anger, then it was gone. "Oh," she said too quickly. "Just a client. Financial planning, you know. He had some tax questions before the year closes." She turned her phone over, face down, and reached for the plantains. Adama kept smiling. "Must be urgent. Messaging you during dinner." A nervous laugh. "Some people just don't respect time," Mama said, dabbing her lips with a napkin. "Boundaries are lost on them." Adama tilted her head. "Ma." She said nothing else, but her mind was already sorting through the pieces. That night, Mama claimed she had work to finish in her study. She disappeared behind the door, slippers shuffling across the floor. Adama cleaned the dishes loudly, turned on the mixer, let the noise carry through the house like a lullaby. But she wasn't cooking anymore. She crouched by the hallway, just outside the study. The door was slightly ajar. Mama's voice floated through like smoke. It wasn't her usual voice. Not the one that commanded rooms. Not the one that scolded children. It was soft, intimate. "I can't call you whenever I want. Yes, I miss you too. Just a little longer. We're almost there." Adama clenched her fists, knuckles white. Mama was giggling like a teenager. Not like a woman with 2 grown daughters. Not like a matriarch. Not like someone who had stolen $57,000 from her own child. Adama turned and walked back to the kitchen, every step feeling like it echoed louder than the last. She flipped the switch on the mixer, pretended to scoop flour. The whirring covered. The scream she was swallowing. She wouldn't confront her. Not yet. That would ruin everything. Over the next 2 weeks, Adama became a ghost in her own home. She smiled when spoken to. She baked cakes for church. She helped Papa fix the gate latch and complimented Ziora's new city dress, all while her recorders whispered back to her, revealing the truth. The messages between Mama and Koba were worse than she imagined. They weren't just flirting. They were building a future one that didn't include Adama at all. They spoke of investments, of a new property near the coast, of clean exits. Adama tracked every moment. She compiled every receipt, every bolt she had paid for, every beam she had lifted. She sat late at night in her workshop, the heater buzzing, the scent of sawdust thick in the air. She logged. Materials, 19,700 setis. Custom cabinets, 5,800. Landscaping, paint, furnishings. She calculated the labor. She hadn't charged weeks of sweat, months of planning. 57,450. All of it hers. All of it stolen. And then Mama had the gall to ask her to plan Ziora's birthday. Adama, my dear, she said, lips tight. Help me make this one special. She deserves it. Adama nodded. Of course, Mama. Let's make it unforgettable. Inside, she felt nothing. No rage, no tears. Only purpose. That night, in her workshop, Adama stared at a half-finished cabinet she had designed for Mama's kitchen. It sat under the lamp, its edges smooth, corners perfect. She touched the wood gently, then drew her hand back. Was she ever truly a daughter here? Or just a contractor with a checkbook? Then came the recording that turned everything from suspicion into proof. Ziora had arrived unannounced. Adama wasn't home, but her devices were. She played the file. That night, Ziora's voice was hushed, urgent. Tabena finished the legal prep. Now that the renovations are done, the timing's perfect. The documents hold. We can cut her out. Mama's voice followed, tired. Is this really necessary? She's still my daughter. You said it yourself, Mama, Ziora replied. You can't stand spending another festival with her. Just let her pay for the house. Then we let her go. A pause. Then Mama again. You're right. Everything will go to you. That's already in place. And Koba? Ziora asked. He's waiting, Mama whispered. Chidi won't notice. He's already halfway gone. And Papa? He won't care. We're just housemates now. I'm starting fresh with Koba. Laughter. Adama gets nothing, Ziora said. Not even her precious tools. Mama, she'll be fine, with her cute little building crew. Adama's hands curled into fists. But this wasn't imagination. This was real. It was documented. And now, it was time. That very night, while the house slept, Adama sat in her room with the door locked. She loaded every recording onto a tablet, printed every receipt, backed up every file to 2 flash drives and 1 secure cloud server. She drafted one final plan, a family meeting, disguised as an estate discussion, set for Ziora's birthday. They had written her downfall like a play, but Adama, she was about to take the stage, and burn the script. The morning of Ziora's birthday arrived like the stillness before a thunderstorm. Makunda was quiet, wrapped in a strange hush. Even the wind moved slower, curling lazily through the open windows of the Okafor family home as if it too was waiting for something to break. Inside, Adama was already awake. She hadn't slept much, but you couldn't tell. Her face was calm, lips slightly painted, her spine straight like a ruler drawn by the gods. She moved through the house with silent purpose, polishing silver spoons, smoothing out tablecloth wrinkles, and setting out the old white china set Mama and Kiru always said was for sacred celebrations only. Each movement was deliberate, each touch rehearsed. This wasn't a birthday dinner. It was a battlefield, and Adama was laying the traps beneath lace and linen. She wore no apron today, no tool belt, no head wrap. Instead, she wore a crisp ivory blouse, tucked into dark-fitted trousers. A charcoal blazer hugged her shoulders. Her hair was combed down, neat, sleek. Her boots low-heeled and dark clicked softly across the polished floor. There were no sawdust marks on her hands, no flour on her cheek, only quiet power. From the hallway, she could hear soft footsteps. Mama! Miru hovered near the doorway like a bird unsure of its nest. Her eyes darted across the room, watching Adama as she lined up the napkins again. Something in her was jittery, her fingers twitching, her lips pressing into a thin line. She adjusted the salt shaker, then moved it back, checked the centerpiece, shifted a napkin that was already straight. Her calm was cracking. Adama could see it. The air buzzed with secrets, and Mama's nerves were starting to smell them. From upstairs, Adama heard her voice, low, urgent. She was on the phone again. She didn't know a tiny recorder in the ceiling vent was soaking up every word like dry earth drinking rain. She's almost done preparing. Everything's still on schedule. Yes, I'll confirm with Koba after the toast. Adama smiled, faintly to herself. She knew the script by heart now. Let her mother believe the victory was near. Let her text her lover. Let her polish her lies until they gleamed. Let her think Adama would just sit quietly and hand over everything she had built. Let her, because it was the last lie she'd ever enjoy. The doorbell rang at exactly 4 o'clock. Mama jumped, nearly dropping her beaded necklace. She composed herself quickly, straightened her shoulders, and opened the door with the warmth of a practiced hostess. Papa Chidi walked in first, holding a dusty bottle of wine he'd probably overpaid for. He greeted everyone in his usual measured tone, lips pressed in that calm, academic way. He kissed Mama on the cheek, nodded at Adama and said, "The place looks even better than last time. You're really something." Adama gave a polite smile. "Thank you, Papa." He didn't ask how long it took, or how much it cost, or what it meant to build it with her own hands. He never did. A few minutes later, Ziora and Tebena arrived. They walked in like royalty. Ziora wore a flowing cream dress and carried a glittering clutch she barely touched. Tebena wore sunglasses inside as always, and a smug little grin that made Adama want to laugh out loud. Tebena gave her a nod that was more obligation than greeting, then quickly pulled Mama aside for a whispered word. Ziora smiled wide and leaned in for an air kiss. "Oh, look at this setup. So elegant. I feel like I'm in a Lagos hotel lobby." Adama smiled tightly. "Only the best for you, sister." Ziora missed the sarcasm completely. The table was set. Adama placed herself at the head, her fingers resting beside a leather folder. To her right sat Mama Nkiru, dressed in her best wrapper green and gold, with a matching headscarf. To her left, Papa Chidi adjusted his sleeves and asked about the wine's vintage. Across from her sat Ziora and Tebena, both scrolling their phones and commenting on the decor like guests in a stranger's house. The room buzzed with idle talk, recipes, gossip, politics, vacation plans. Everyone was in place, just like Adama had planned. She reached for her glass and stood. "Before we start this evening celebration," she said, voice steady, "I'd like to make a short toast." The clinking of glasses and chatter faded into complete stillness. "To family," she began. "To loyalty. And to truth finally shining beneath this beautiful renovation." Everyone froze. The air shifted. Tension coiled beneath the ceiling beams. Adama raised her glass, then lowered it without drinking. She looked around the table, letting her gaze settle on each person. Papa's raised brow, Ziora's frozen smile, Tabena's blinking confusion. And finally Mama N'Ingu, her lips parted slightly, her hand twitching near the salt shaker. "I've been thinking," Adama continued slowly, "about what it means to contribute. To build, to pour your soul into something, not for applause, but because you believe in it." She picked up the tablet beside her plate and tapped the screen. "I found something this month, something serious. Something that threatens everything I've built." Papa leaned forward, ready to ask about the business. "No, Papa," she said quickly. "It's not the company. It's this family." Mama Niru reached for her hand. "Adama, what are you doing?" But Adama didn't flinch. She looked her mother straight in the eyes and pressed play. The room filled with familiar voices. "Ziora, once she pays for the house, we'll cut her off. Mama, everything will go to you, my daughter. Tabena, the legal grounds are solid." The dining room seemed to shrink. The chandelier flickered. Ziora went pale. Her fork slipped off her plate. Tabena sat up straighter, fixing his tie. Papa Chidi blinked like someone had just slapped him with math he couldn't solve. Mama did not move. She was frozen like one of her own ceramic vases. Adama paused the audio. Then she swiped again. Messages, emails. On the screen appeared screenshots of romantic notes, financial strategy. A man named Koba. The conversations were unmistakable. 10 years, Adama said quietly. "Mama used my money to fund a secret affair while I rebuilt this house. She rebuilt her escape." Papa's face drained of color. "Did you know?" she asked, turning to him. "Did you know your wife planned to leave you for your business partner? Did you know she and your daughter conspired to erase me from the family I held together?" He didn't answer, so she kept going. She swiped again. A spreadsheet, clean, color-coded, 57,450, she said. "That's how much I spent down to the nail without charging labor, while running a company, while paying for your trips, your spa days, your birthday feasts." She looked straight at her mother. "And this is the reward." The silence was heavy now. Papa Chidi stood suddenly. His chair screeched backward, falling with a crash. He pointed at Mama, voice trembling. "This is monstrous. Niru, what is this?" Mama reached for Adama's wrist. "It's not what you think. You're misunderstanding." Tabena began typing furiously under the table. Adama looked at him. "The files you're trying to delete? Already backed up. Every text. Every plan. Every whispered insult." He froze. Mama's eyes welled. "Baby, please. We didn't mean to hurt you. We were just what, Mama?" Adama snapped. "Just milking me dry until Koba came to carry you away?" Mama's mouth opened, but no words came out. Adama wasn't finished. She tapped again. The final file appeared. Titled, "New Life Plan After Renovation." She read aloud, "Best. Time to tell Chidi. Secure funds from Adama first. Begin fresh with Koba." Papa Chidi's hands clenched into fists. He looked at Mama not with anger, but betrayal so deep it made his eyes glassy. "You were never present," Mama whispered. "Bitterly, always working. Always in your lectures. And you," he roared, "repaid me by draining our accounts and raising a child just like you to betray the one person who held us together." In one sudden motion, he reached across the table and flipped it. Plates shattered. Wine splashed. Candles fell. Mama screamed. Ziora shrieked. Tabena ducked. Adama didn't move. She sat still calm as the destruction rang through the house she had once restored. She had seen buildings fall before. She knew the sound of collapse. Tears were pouring now loud, heaving, unfiltered. Mama Niru stood in the middle of the shattered dining room, her wrapper soaked with spilled palm wine and her dignity dissolving. With each sob, she kept repeating Adama's name like a broken charm. "Adama, please. My child. We need to talk. Just us." Not like this. But Adama had already risen from her seat with a grace that made the room feel smaller. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. Her voice was calm, cold as river stones. "Really?" she said. "And how is it supposed to happen, Mama?" The question sliced through the air like a machete through dry grass. "Were you going to nudge me out slowly? Maybe use guilt to make me leave the house I built with my hands? Pretend to love me while preparing a room for Koba?" Nikuru's eyes, swollen and red, pleaded across the chaos. "You don't understand. There was pressure. It wasn't all my idea." "No," Adama interrupted, voice firm. "But you smiled in my face. You called me your good daughter. All while plotting my removal like I was an unpaid helper." The house was silent now except for Nkiru's hiccuping sobs and the faint hum of the ceiling fan that had once spun over family prayers. Ziora stood awkwardly near the archway, arms crossed like a guilty schoolgirl. Her designer heels tapped against the floor, but she said nothing. Tabena, ever the shadow behind the curtain, was still quietly deleting messages from his phone. Eyes low, intent, and Papa Chidi, his face was the one that hurt the most. He looked like someone had pulled the floor out from under him. Not just stunned, broken. Adama stepped toward the front door. "This gathering is over," she said softly. She turned the knob and flung the door open wide. The evening air rushed in cool, clean, honest. Without a word, Papa Chidi stood and walked out. He didn't look at anyone. Just disappeared into the twilight like a man looking for silence. Ziora blinked. Adama pointed toward the door. "Out." Tabena grabbed Ziora by the arm and pulled her gently. "Let's go." They obeyed. No protests. No fake apologies. Just silence. When the door closed behind them, Adama turned back. To Mama. She stood amidst the wreckage plates, shattered like promises, wine staining the tablecloth like betrayal made visible. The room looked exactly like what it was, the ruins of a false family. Mama's voice was small, barely above a whisper. "Where will you go?" Adama straightened her back and picked up her overnight bag. "I've already made arrangements," she replied. Her tone was final, steady. "I'll return tomorrow to collect what's mine: tools, blueprints, keepsakes. Nothing more." Mama's eyes flicked to the tablet still on the table. "You planned all this," she said, a hint of awe in her voice. "You orchestrated the whole reveal." Adama nodded. "I learned from the best. Strategy, planning, control. You taught me without knowing." She turned and walked toward the door. "Adama," Mama called out, desperate now. "You'll regret this." Adama didn't turn. She walked out into the night, leaving her house behind. And for the first time in many moons, she slept. The hotel room was simple, white sheets, wooden floor, a quiet lamp on a small table. She closed the door behind her, slipped off her boots, and sat on the bed. She breathed. Not shallow, panicked breaths, deep, quiet, whole. Sleep found her easily that night, cradling her like a child returning to the womb of peace. The next morning, she returned. The house was empty. No theatrics, no confrontation. Just the rustle of leaves and the soft hum of electricity in the walls. She had rewired herself. She didn't touch anything unnecessary. She gathered her tools, measuring tape, chisels, blueprints, journals, old sketches of kitchens she once dreamed of building. She didn't glance at the living room. She didn't linger in the kitchen. She walked to the small workshop in the back, unlocked the chest she had carved herself, and retrieved the key she once gave Mama, engraved with the Sabiti symbol for trust. She placed it gently on the bench and left. One final contribution. By week's end, Adama had moved into her new home, a sunlit condo just blocks from her office, overlooking the calm waters of Lake Nsanso. It wasn't grand, it was quiet. Intentional. She didn't announce it, didn't post pictures, didn't explain her absence. She simply disappeared from the family's radar and began again. Not hiding, not starting over, just free. The messages came like mosquitoes after rain. 14 from Mama. They started with fury. How dare you shame me before your father? You've ruined us. Then came guilt. We need to talk. Families work through things. Mistakes were made, but we're blood. Then desperation. Koba left. He went back to his wife. I have no one now. Adama read every message without flinching. They weren't apologies, they were aftermath. Like a client complaining about the color of paint after months of free labor. Eventually she replied, I filed for legal separation. Please forward all future communication through my attorney. Charlene responded within seconds. Just one meeting, Adama. Please. Her final reply was short. There's nothing left to discuss. Then she blocked the number. 2 days later, Ziara reached out. A single message. Adama, I'm sorry. I know I can't take back what I said, but we're still sisters, aren't we? Then the kicker. Tabena says he can offer you legal help if you ever need. Adama didn't even laugh. She forwarded the message to her lawyer. By morning, 2 additional filings were submitted restraining orders against Ziara and Tabena. She wasn't playing anymore. Later that week, her lawyer called. Your father has started his own investigation, he said. He confirmed the affair. He's devastated. Adama closed her eyes, her voice barely a breath. I'm not surprised. He wants to amend his will. He plans to leave everything to you. That's not necessary, she replied. He insists. Says it's the only way he can make things right. That night, a message arrived from Papa Chidi, typed slowly, no punctuation, no flourish. Please forgive my silence, I should have seen it, I should have stopped it, I will make this right everything. I own will be yours, you were the only one who had integrity. Adama didn't cry. She didn't even smile. She just sat quietly and let the relief settle into her bones like warm tea on a cold morning. 3 months passed. The new condo became a sanctuary. Sunlight poured through the tall windows like blessings from the sky. Every morning, she stood by the glass with her coffee, staring at the lake, not thinking of renovation plans, but of peace. The tools had their place now, not hidden in corners, not shoved under stairs. Her workshop, once borrowed, now hers filled, with the scent of sawdust and lavender. The second bedroom became a design studio. At night, she sketched freely light fixtures, floating shelves, walk-in pantries, not for anyone else, for herself. Sometimes grief snuck in, not for them, for the version of her that stayed too long. The woman who built for approval instead of joy, who poured her heart into hollow hands. But those moments passed quickly now. She had built enough. She and Papa Chidi met once a month for lunch now. He had retired fully, moved to a quiet town, taught part-time at a village school. He no longer lectured. He listened. He apologized again at their last lunch, not with tears, but with clarity. You deserved better, he said. From all of us. They didn't talk about Nehru, they didn't have to. The silence around her said enough. One evening, as Adama was measuring a new client's kitchen layout, it hit her. If someone had asked her back then what she was building, she would have. A family legacy, a home for all of us. But the truth? She had been building proof she was enough. Proof she could earn love by pouring, by giving, by never breaking. But love doesn't live in blueprints, it lives in freedom. In space, in choosing to stay standing when others walk away. They didn't love her less because she failed. They loved her less because she succeeded. Because she made herself useful. because she stopped staying small. But Adama wasn't small anymore. She was strong, capable, free. Now when friends visited her new home, they looked around in awe. The reclaimed wood shelves, the clay light fixtures molded by her hands, the way every piece felt intentional. They always asked, "Who designed this?" And she smiled. "I did, not for applause, not for forgiveness, just because she could." Sometimes, the strongest thing you can build isn't a house or a family. Name, it's the courage to walk away from those who never saw your worth. Not every storm deserves your shelter. Not every bond deserves your blood. And not every title daughter, sister, child means loyalty. What you create with love is yours to reclaim. Never let betrayal be louder than your peace. If this story touched a part of you, hit the like button, subscribe for more African tales of resilience, and share this with someone who's learning to stand alone. Because healing starts when the silence ends, and sometimes the quietest revenge is moving on.